Good morning and welcome to Inside Pages on Metro Television. My name is Aldo Moro, your host. Inside Pages this morning is very fortunate to be hosting a man whose seat arguably is the hottest and perhaps the most difficult seat because he has a huge responsibility. The president has tasked him to ensure that our water bodies are clean so that Ghana Water Company Limited can continue to provide us with clean, potable water. Now, this is a man who's also been very busy trying to make sure that trying to make sure that our lands, where we want to acquire lands, we want to build, and there are issues with land guards and so on and so forth. He wants to make sure that he cleanses the system as well. He's a member of parliament for the Damango constituency, and I'm talking about the Honorable Samuel Jinapor. He is graciously accepted to host us in his office this morning, and we're here to have a quick interview with him, and that's why we're here. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
It's been a while.
Yeah, a long while. It's very good to see you.
Good to see you too. And first of all, my sympathies to you. I mean, there was a video that was circulating quite recently about the fact that your private residence has been gutted. Yeah. How bad was the situation?
Well, it was quite extensive, but we're fine. We're getting on with it.
Right.
You know, in Ghana, because of our spiritual underpinnings, we easily get on with these things so easily.
Right.
Somebody says I'm decommissioning excavator, so God is decommissioning my house too.
So you don't smell any rat.
Well, I think the matters have been looked into. I'm not really paid much attention to it.
Right.
We're moving on.
Right. Well, my deepest sympathies for that.
Thank you. That's so kind of you.
So the reason why I'm here this morning, as you do know, the big issue of illegal small-scale mining is resurfaced. The conversation has come up, obviously, because of the arrest of the popular, as we say, Galamsey Queen, that Aisha won. And so it's brought up the issue about whether indeed we're fighting Galamsey successfully, illegal Galamsey successfully or not. Now, from where you sit, genuinely, where do you think we are in our fight against Galamsey?
Well, Moro, thank you very much, and thank you for having me, and a very good morning to your cherished viewers. And to also begin by saying that the issue of illegal small-scale mining in Galamsey has become a topical issue, it's become a national issue, as you've quite rightly pointed out. And I will say, rightly so, it should be. If it wasn't, I would take the view that then the country is asleep. It tells me that the country is awake, because the matters to do with illegal small-scale mining goes to the very survival of our country. It goes to the lands, the forests of our country. And that's what constitutes Ghana. So it is just so appropriate that the Ghanaian people are that passionate about this issue and concerned about it. So where are we with the fight against illegal small-scale mining? I've made a point, and I want to repeat it, that look, wherever you have an extractive industry, wherever in the world, whether it's in the petrochemical industry or it's in the mining industry, the issue of illegality tends to be endemic and systemic and tends to be a complicated and complex matter to deal with. Just yesterday, I was watching a documentary on the South African Broadcasting Corporation, and there was a report about the phenomenon of illegal small-scale mining in South Africa. There they call it Zamazama. How we call it here, Galamsey, they call it Zamazama.
Right.
And indeed, the report talked about how dire the situation had become, so much so that the miners are now using threat of life on security officials, on ministers and public servants to get their way. So that is the situation there. So is it also in Australia, in Canada, in the United States. But I don't make this point as a defense, or I don't make this point to justify the occurrence of illegal small-scale mining in our country. I make that point to situate this particular subject in its proper context. And what is the context? Look, the work we've done about this particular situation has been tremendous. I mean, we've done so much work in terms of the reformation of the sector itself, which is the first approach we've adopted, the issue of how the mining itself is done, community mining, the licensing regime, which has been actually organized online now, the Make Refill Gold processing equipments we've brought into the loop, and several other interventions we put in place, including even working with the small-scale miners association themselves. And then the second pillar on which we're trying to regulate small-scale mining in our country being the enforcement regime. As you know, Operation Halt, decommission of excavators, arrest of people, prosecutions, and all of that. These are the two main pillars on which we have been proceeding to regulate small-scale mining in our country. But having said that, we haven't gotten to a situation where we will come to the conclusion that it is satisfactory. We obviously haven't, and which will mean that we need to adopt additional measures. We need to ramp up the enforcement mechanism. So is it also that we need to up our game when it comes to the reformation of the sector. But I make all these points to come to the most fundamental of all the points, which is that it will take a collective national action to regulate small-scale mining in our country. It will take, of course, I as a minister has a huge responsibility, and I'm not oblivious of that responsibility. I certainly do. The government does, the president does, and we will not shirk that responsibility. But the chiefs also have a responsibility. The police have a responsibility. The security agencies have a responsibility. Local authorities have a responsibility. District chief executives do. Assembly people do. Citizens do, particularly indigenous of various communities where small-scale mining takes place. All of them do have responsibilities, which is why I'm actually in the process of meeting the national chiefs again to call for their support, which is why next week I'm going to meet all MMDCs and regional ministers in the mining enclaves of our country to ask for their support, which is why I'm going to embark on a tour of the mining regions of our country to ask for the support of the citizens and the indigenous. So where are we with illegal small-scale mining, respectfully? I think a lot of work has been done. I think we've made some progress. I think if for nothing, the culture of impunity seems to be, we seem to be exercising that out of the system. But I'll be the first person to admit that we have not gotten to a satisfactory situation yet. The issue of the river bodies of our country is continues to be a major issue. Of course, we brought speed boats, and they are being used for patrols 24/7, and all the efforts are being made to rid the river bodies of our country of illegal small-scale mining. The way forward is that all the things we're doing to sanitize the sector, we continue to do them and do even more. But it will require all of us, our support, and all of us, our cooperation, and all of us, our input, including media people like you.
Right. Well, admittedly, some work has been done in that space, and I think we can attest to the fact that you're doing a lot of work in that regard. But I mean, how do you want Ghanaians to feel when just recently Ghana Water Company Limited is saying that, look, when we look at the turbidity of the water, it will get to a point where we may not be able to provide you with potable water because the water is still very bad. We're spending a lot more in cleaning or cleansing the water that we're using to provide for the citizenry. Does it make you feel frustrated that despite all the effort, you're having sleepless nights as to how you can deal with this menace, and yet you hear these reports that, look, the minister and all the other stakeholders who are involved in this fight, despite all the things that you're doing, we still can't, we're looking at the turbidity of the water and we can't seem to see any progress. I don't know how that makes you feel.
Well, I'm not sure about being frustrated, of course. I get disappointed when those who have to play their role do not play their role. I mean, that is human, that is normal. But I don't also get daunted. And as I said from the very beginning, even when I went for vetting, this will not be an event. This is going to be a process. And this is going to require concerted, sustainable efforts. It cannot be go in and come out and then you get all the results. It will have to be effort which has to be waged over a period of time, perhaps even months and years down the road. But we all have to play our role, and I have to play my role, and which is why everything that has to be done on the part of the ministry and government will be done, including the enforcement regime, which will be blind to political persuasion, status, and you've seen already that chiefs have been arrested. The Ghana Police Service, by a day or two or so, arrested a chief and his brother. Just last week, we arrested 154 foreigners. In the days and weeks to come, Ghanaians will see before their very eyes that the enforcement regime will be ramped up. All of those things will be done. So I'm not too sure about being frustrated. I just think that we have to do what we have to do, and we have to continue to call for the support of all the stakeholders who have to support this noble fight, because at the end of the day, we are working to protect our country and to save our country. The Ghana Water Company's report is a disturbing one, and I think 3 or 6 months ago, the Minister responsible for water resources and I went on a tour of the river bodies of our country, and Cobra, Pra, Ofin, Brim, and the rest. And we were all very concerned about the state of the river bodies of our country, because we know the impact of illegal small-scale mining on the river bodies and the impact on delivery of water in the country. So we're all very concerned. Of course, I do also know that some of the river bodies are improving, are recovering. The turbidity levels of Pra, for example, I'm told is improved, and you can even visibly see that the water body seems to be recovering. But that said, there's still a great deal of work to be done. And I'm speaking to you the way I'm speaking because I also am very concerned, and we want to get to a point where all of us will find this particular canker as a menace or as a situation which requires our collective action.
You have launched Operation Halt 2. How different is this going to be from Operation Halt 1?
Yeah, so the Operation Halt 2, the major feature of Operation Halt 2 as opposed to Operation Halt 1 and Vanguard and the rest is that this is a surgical type of operation.
Okay.
They go in and come out because we don't want a situation where security officers stay or the soldiers stay in the field for too long. And
could potentially be compromised. Potentially.
Potentially, and
yes.
also other threats on them and all of that.
Right.
So they go in and they come out. But it will not take only enforcement, or it will not take Operation Halt 2 alone to come to grips of this matter. I mean, I think it will take a lot more. It will take also the Minerals Commission and the ministry's work to ensure that the various aspects of mining, small-scale mining in our country, are all fit for purpose. How people acquire licenses, how they acquire permits, how they conduct the mining, the issue of community mining, how many are they readily accessible, how are the community mining themselves being operated, is it another pseudo illegal small-scale mining. All of these things will have to be sorted out, and as I say to you, and say so with a great degree of confidence, that work is being done and being done robustly and effectively, which is the various components which will make the sector itself attractive. All of that is being done. We cannot lose sight of enforcement, and as I keep repeating, we are going to ramp up the enforcement regime relating to illegal small-scale mining.
What was your immediate reaction when you heard that Aisha 1 was back in town?
Well, another foreigner who is involved in criminal conduct in our country who has to be dealt with. And thankfully and mercifully and happily, the Attorney General is very much on top of that matter. The Attorney General is even preferred extra charges against her, and she's before court. And in the past, the legal regime or the statutory regime, Act 703, which criminalized illegal small-scale mining and the involvement of foreigners in illegal small-scale mining, was not punitive enough. The involvement of foreigners in illegal small-scale mining was almost a misdemeanor, and judges were given a discretion to impose fine. The government of President Akufo-Addo, wanting to root out foreigners out from our small-scale mining sector, took steps to amend Act 703 through Act 995 to make the punishment for foreigners being involved in illegal small-scale more punitive and more deterrent, which has resulted in a minimum sentencing regime of about 20 years, and which has also ousted the discretion of a judge to impose a fine. And for me, that is a major intervention, and that is a major feat. Because all the talk about Aisha 1, if that had not been done, it would have meant that if Aisha 1, as Aisha 1 has even been arraigned before the courts of our country, what probably would have just come out of it would be a fine, if the judge so decided, or whatever sentence which would have been slapped on her if she's found culpable or she's convicted, will just be a pat on the back.
Well, then it means that you disagree with the likes of Asan Kuma, who thinks that the very minute that Aisha 1 was let off the hook in 2016 was when he said to himself that we've lost the fight against Galamsey, because we had no business not prosecuting that woman. We should have prosecuted her, and even if the judge was going to use his discretion to say, well, just slap a fine on her or whatever it is, but at least would have sent the signals out there. That's Asan Kuma's belief.
I mean, I think
And that's why she's back.
Yes, I mean, a lot of people are making commentary on this matter. I think they're entitled to it, and I'm not too sure that I want to, comment on specific opinions about how these things should be handled or how they've been handled.
But you disagree that she should have been penalized or prosecuted in 2018? Is that the case?
I'm not even really overly obsessed about the past.
Right.
My focus is how we root out foreigners from our small-scale mining industry, which is why the arrest of the 154 foreigners a week ago, for me, is a major feat. And the arrest of Aisha Wan herself and the determination of the Attorney General to prosecute Aisha Wan and exact the maximum punishment on her, for me, it's also a great impetus to the work we are doing here. We need to always look at these matters from a broader point of view. There are foreigners involved in criminal conduct in various aspects of our national life, whether it's in the mining sector, or it's in the fishing sector, or it's in the petrochemical industry, or it's in the threat to the stability of our country through terrorism, or it's armed robbery, or what have you. The focus of a government worth its salt, such as the Akufo-Addo government, ought to be putting in place the requisite policy, legislative framework to root out foreigners from all the criminal enterprises and cartels in our country, mining inclusive, and which is why her arrest for me is good news. And even the news which is for me a better news is the fact that the Attorney General is absolutely determined to pin this woman down. That is absolutely good news. And I don't think that it should just be Aisha Wan. It should be all the foreigners involved in small-scale mining in our country, because it's a crime to be for a foreigner to be involved in small-scale mining in our country, whether legal or illegal. It is absolutely a criminal conduct for any foreigner to be involved in small-scale mining. And the law which has been amended is made the punishment for such conduct more deterrent, more punitive. We should pursue all those foreigners, just as we arrested 154 people just last week. That is how I want to look at these matters, and I believe that is what will make the necessary impact.
This is Inside Pages on Metro Television. We're hosting the Land and Natural Resources Minister, Samuel Abu Jinapor. When we come back, we'll ask him what his expectations are. He's in court, and he tells us that one of the biggest feats that this administration has struck is the review of the law that has made it very punitive for persons who, foreigners who are engaged in illegal mining to face the full rigors of the law. So what really will be his expectation? That what should be jailed? Is that his expectation? And then when we come back, we'll also ask him about issues about lands. There's still serious problems with people acquiring lands and land guards harassing everybody everywhere. When I come back, the lands minister is still our guest. This is Inside Pages. Welcome back to Inside Pages. I have the Honorable Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu Jinapor, with us here. We're privileged to have him to talk to him about a myriad of issues. We have been speaking to him about generally about Galamsey and the return of Aisha Wan. Now we're going to be talking to him about the implications of the Minerals and Mining Act as amended and what his expectations will be now that Aisha Wan has been prosecuted. Honorable, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
I found it quite exciting and quite fascinating when you mentioned that, look, one of the biggest feats that this government can actually, feel proud of is the amendment which has happened to the Minerals and Mining Act, and the fact that it now makes it a very, very dangerous activity to engage in, which is if you're a foreigner and you want to engage in illegal small-scale mining. Based on that, what then will be your expectations now that Aisha Wan is in court?
Well, I think that Aisha Wan should be made to face the full rigors of the law and should be prosecuted in accordance with the laws of our country. And if she's found guilty, which I'm expecting she will, these are not prejudicial comments, because the facts that I'm seized with, I hope and expect that she'll be convicted. She should be slapped with the most punitive sentencing ever, and the prescription of the law as it relates to foreigners being involved in small-scale mining should be brought down on her heavily and fully.
Reportedly, she's got some audio visuals that she may be unleashing onto the unsuspecting public if she's prosecuted successfully. You've heard that too?
Well, my attitude to those things is not different from my attitude to all wrongdoing. Wrongdoing must be exposed. So if she has any materials
she's
or
free
anything,
to put it out there.
Oh, of course she should. I mean, we want to unravel the entire cartel and syndicate. So if, as they are claiming, that's if that is correct, that some officials are supposed to have compromised themselves, we want to know. We want those matters to be exposed in the full glare of the Ghanaian people so that they will also be made to face the full rigors of the laws of our country.
All right. So I guess we can conclude on that and move to issues of our land just briefly. Everybody wants to acquire land. Everybody wants to build a house, either for individual purposes, for commercial purposes, or for whatever purposes. But then it's becoming risky and risky. I know the Lands Act 2020 it's supposed to make it very punitive for people to engage in landguardism, but it's still with us. I know it's a journey. It's not an event. I don't know how concerned you are about this landguardism thing, and what are some of the far-reaching reforms that you're making or you're superintending at the Lands Commission to make this whole landguardism thing a very risky venture?
Yes, so land administration in our country continues to be a problem, and I do know that all of us have issues to do with land administration in Ghana, and people are genuinely concerned, and rightly so, about the state of land administration in our country. Now, there's a whole lot of work which has been done already, and a good deal of work which is yet to be done to ensure that the state of land administration is one that can be said to be satisfactory. Yes, people buy land, conduct searches, they get results from the applications they put in at the Lands Commission, and then the searches turn out not to be credible enough, and the records keeping of the Lands Commission itself is not fit for purpose. All of those things are matters we are very much aware of and not oblivious of. And therefore, the need for us to put the requisite measures in place to be able to deal with this particular matter is absolutely important. And of course, land administration has a direct consequences on economic activity. If you have a good land administration in your country, it will attract investment, and indeed it will also encourage people to invest even domestically. And therefore, for us at the ministry, the question of land administration is absolutely primordial, and it's a matter that we are very, very concerned about. A few things have been done already, which I believe is making some modest impact, some modest positive impact. I mean, for example, in the past, if you went to Lands Commission to conduct a search, you went to 3 different departments or divisions of the Lands Commission, and it was very likely that you, in respect of one parcel of land, you will secure 3 different conflicting search results. And so you go to the Lands Commission itself, you go to the survey department, you go to the title division, and you conduct a search. I go to conduct at Lands Commission, another person goes to conduct at the survey department, the third person goes to the title division, and the 3 results in respect of one parcel of land turn out to be conflicting. And that was a big problem. We've changed that, and we now have a composite search center where if you go to the Lands Commission anywhere in Ghana today and you put in an application, you are going to get one result, and that is helping considerably. So is it also that out there the Lands Commission has made an effort to digitize some of its records, but ultimately, Moro, and as you say this, ultimately what is going to resolve the issue of land administration in Ghana is if we are successful at digitizing the records of the Lands Commission, which is taking us into the realm of the land administration program, which we are pursuing now, which is going to result in a public-private arrangement to ensure that the records of Lands Commission is digitized. As it is, the records of Lands Commission, about 80% or 90% of it, is continues to be manual. So people are taking files, that's where you have this file is missing, this is that is that. We need to get to a situation where by the click of a button on your phone or your laptop or wherever, you can access the records of the Lands Commission, which will be said to be unimpeachable, and nobody can tamper with the records of the Lands Commission. That is work which is far advanced, which is one of the biggest objectives of this government, which we are pursuing vigorously, and which we are very hopeful and optimistic will be rolled out, and that should resolve land administration in our country. As you know, the Lands Commission is supposed to be the repository of all land records in Ghana, whether public lands, family lands, clan lands, two lands, skin lands, what have you. The Lands Commission, being a creature of the Constitution, wherever it is situated in the country, is expected to be the final stop when it comes to records of land in Ghana.
Okay.
So until such time that the record keeping of Lands Commission itself can be said to be fit for purpose, I think that will be grouping in the dark. And I think that a lot of our efforts will not yield the requisite results which will help with land administration, which will then lead to ordinary citizens buying land and being satisfied that Mr. Jinapor sold me land. The land indeed and in fact belongs to Mr. Jinapor because Lands Commission says so. As it is, somebody walks to me as a Minister for Lands and shows me a document to say Lands Commission in Uti region or Savannah says this land belongs to this person. I can really be sure because the records are manual. I don't know how the record keeping was done. I don't know how they've been kept. And so I can vouch for it. But if we digitize all of them and what the experts call digitalize, which is that the digitized records are now put in a form where they can be used to, you can work with, in a software form, then we'll be satisfied. That's the work we are doing now.
There's a gentleman called Prince Dekeje. He's consistently writing articles and criticizing the government for not releasing last two lands.
Who is that?
Prince Dekeje.
Is it former NDC executive?
Yes, former NDC executive. He's been writing a lot of articles, some of which were well recipients of those articles and some of my other media colleagues. And his major problem is that government has acquired last two lands. You've used it for whatever purposes you want to use it for. You don't need it anymore. Give our lands back to us. And they've been on this, and they've been on this pursuit for God knows how long, and nothing positive is coming out. I don't know you've heard some of these reports as well, and would you have any comments to say about these last two lands?
Well, I'm not too sure I want to be responding to individuals, but the point I make, across the country, the issue of allodial title owners to lands it's been an issue across the country, whether it's in the Ashanti region or it's in the eastern or it's in the Greater Accra or in the northern region, wherever you go to. The chiefs are very concerned about their allodial title interest and also their reversionary interest. And as you know, the issue of, I think, Article 20 or so of the Constitution, which relates to compulsory acquisition and the right of first refusal by the original owners of land. And I've been to all the 16 regional houses of chiefs of Ghana. I've been to the national house of chiefs. And it's one of the issues that the chiefs are very concerned about. Look, I don't fault the chiefs, because if you study the historical antecedents of Ghanaian land tenure system, you will appreciate why the chiefs come to these matters the way they do. Ghana is one of the few countries in Africa where our forebears stood up against the colonial powers' attempt to appropriate the lands of our country. You recall John Mensah Sabai and Co. through the Aborigines Right Protection Society, the Crown's Lands Bill of 1876, when John Mensah Sabai and Co. stood up in collaboration with the chiefs to counter it and oppose that bill, which could not pass, and which meant that in Ghana, in the words of John Mensah Sabai, there's nothing like ownerless land. Every land belongs to a chief or a clan head or a family or a tindana across the country.
Right.
And government really doesn't have land in Ghana. You go to Ashanti region, for example, public lands only constitute 10% of the lands in Ashanti. Right. All the lands are vested in a golden stool. And so the chiefs, whether La or Dagomba or Ashanti or whatever, tend to come to these matters with a lot of passion. And always remember, when it comes to land, it's a question of blood.
Absolutely.
They fought for them. So government is always having to find a satisfactory route in dealing with these matters. And we are doing just that. Okay. For example, the specific issue of the lands. I mean, it's a matter that we are almost through with. Yes, we've had a lot of engagements with the Ghana Armed Forces, with the La Traditional Council itself, and we are very much in the concluding stages of that particular matter. But you should always remember, when it comes to public lands, pursuant to the dictates of our Constitution, those lands are vested in the president for and on behalf of the Ghanaian people. The Constitution is very clear on that. So in actual fact, the land doesn't belong to the president. The land belongs to the Ghanaian people. The president is a trustee. And if you know the duties and obligations of a trustee, trust law is fiduciary, which is the highest level of duty. It means that you've been given the thing to hold on behalf of the Ghanaian people. You have to keep it and hold it well. And a very distinguished, responsible president like Akufo-Addo, you can imagine, will be very, very concerned about how these lands are managed. So many a times you hear people say, oh, these people's land, to give it back to them. We can't just be giving lands back to people like that. It must be through a well thought through methodical process which we can justify to the Ghanaian people. Okay. You know the issues that happen with Achimota Forest.
Absolutely.
And all, exactly.
Yeah.
So these are matters, as minister who has delegated powers from the president, and for that matter, delegated powers from the Ghanaian people, I should be able to defend whatever action I take to the president. And the president should be able to defend whatever actions he takes to the Ghanaian people. Mm. And so, yes, I know there's a lot of agitation. One of the, if you come to my desk of a file, half of it will be petitions from chiefs and from clans, from families, from individuals, asking for the return of public lands to them. But we just can't be returning public lands to people indiscriminately. It has to be done in accordance with the public interest. Look, the New Lands Act, Act 1026, stipulates, for example, that after 6 months upon the promulgation of the Act, government should set up a committee to deal with the issue of vested lands. You know, the Constitution divested all the lands in northern Ghana, but did not divest lands in southern Ghana. So a good number of lands in southern Ghana continue to be vested in the president. The Constitution, our national constitution, the 1992 constitution.
That's quite interesting.
From the get-go, there's a provision in there which divested all the lands in northern Ghana, across board. Mm. But in southern Ghana, lands have not been divested.
Wow.
And people come to them passionately. So as a result of that, there's a provision in the Lands Act which says after 6 months upon the passage of that act, government should set up a committee to make recommendations to the president about the divesting of public lands in divesting of public land, but practically it means southern Ghana lands. Okay. So I put together a committee, and the committee is almost done with this work. And we're going to make recommendations to the president, and the president will then take decisions on a case-by-case basis as to which lands should be divested. So the matter to do with public lands and the return of public lands to original owners, allodial title owners, and the rest is quite complex, and I think we should approach it carefully.
Finally, before you take leave of us, Honorable Minister, what's the latest on your reconstruction efforts? The people in Apiate, where are we now? When can they finally move into a decent home and lay their heads?
As we say in Ghana, they are now at knee level.
Plans are far advanced.
I hope they get to lentil level soon.
Right. We can't wait.
So so the contractors are on site as we speak. The construction is ongoing. Okay. I myself will be visiting very soon to see for myself how the work is being pursued. It's one of the things I must say, in all modesty, I feel very proud of in terms of what has been done so far.
Are you mobilizing enough funds? Because we
don't have enough funds. Okay. We don't have enough funds.
How much of the 70
we really have funds to begin the work, which is what has happened. And as a matter of fact, I insisted that the contractors should not be paid mobilization. It was a way of us determining which of the contractors has capacity among the other measures which had been put in place to select these contractors. And so these contractors are working without having been paid a penny.
That's interesting.
Yes, and for me that was very important because we didn't want to get into the situation where you pay mobilization and then contractors bolt or they begin to drag their feet. The report I have is that the work is moving steadily and a lot of work is being done there. I want to use the opportunity to commend highly the chairperson of the fundraising committee, Auntie Joyce, Dr. Joyce Ayi, for the work she's done. She's done a yeoman's job, and I dove my heart out for her. She's a woman I respect so much, but what she's done with this Apiate thing is just extraordinary. Not a penny remuneration. The day I raised the issue of allowances to her, she said to me, no, she's not going to take a penny for allowance. And she hasn't taken a penny, and she's gone out of her way to mobilize these funds for us, and these are the funds that is giving us the courage to move forward. I also want to use the opportunity to thank all the individuals and companies and foreign entities and conglomerates who have contributed to this fund, and also call on Ghanaians, beginning with my good friend Moro, to contribute to the fund. and get us going with this project. I'll be expecting it, and all of that. It was a very tragic event, and a lot of work is been done on that. It's resulted in us literally tearing down and reconstructing the safety regime of mining in Ghana. And I thank Professor Amankwa, the Vice Chancellor of the George Parr Grant University of Mines and Technology, for his leadership in helping us to come up with the proper framework for safety in the mining sector in our country. Look, the reason why I feel so proud about this is that there's not a penny of the taxpayers' money involved in this, not a penny of public funds involved in it, which is why I'm proud, because when you put your heart to a noble cause, and a cause that is about humanity, look, people are prepared to step forward. And that's exactly what has happened now. My responsibility, our responsibility, is to make sure that we don't let Ghanaians down, and that we use this money judiciously, value for money, transparency, integrity, and build these houses for these very unfortunate compatriots of ours in Apieti, so that when it's all said and done, we can all go there and give glory to God.
How's your constituency? How's it going? You made history. You annexed a seat which traditionally is an NDC seat, and how confident are you that you would maintain it?
That's if I would contest again, isn't it? You're assuming I'll contest again.
I'm assuming you contest again, because I'm told the constituents won't forgive you if you don't contest.
Oh, really?
Yes,
you think
that's
so?
what I've been told.
Well, I don't think so. It's a difficult place.
Okay.
A difficult constituency. It is difficult. We've never won that constituency before, MPP, since the constituency was created in 2012. The leader of the opposition, President Mahama, was born in that constituency. He was born in Damango District Hospital. That's where he was born. His mother comes from that place. His mother is a colossus in the Damango enclave. I won the parliamentary elections by a margin which is the same as the margin President Mahama won the presidential elections. So I won with a margin of about 3,000 votes. He won with a margin of about 3,000 votes. So if you are somebody who understands, has a basic understanding of politics and elections, should tell you that is a fragile constituency.
Very.
Yes, and therefore, it's never lost on me, and I don't get complacent at all.
It means you may or may not go again.
I'm not even thinking in that realm yet. The most important thing is that we have to work for the people, okay. and they have their needs, and those needs are never lost on me, and I'm very, very awake to those needs. And we are trying to systematically deliver those needs of theirs systematically. We still have 2 years, 3 months to go. Always remember that. And therefore, we have a good deal of work to continue to do for the people of Damango. We are going to continue to do that. And finally, I don't know about other constituencies, but in my constituency, I know that so well. Serving in humility. Yeah, there's, keep.
I see you sitting down with old women.
It means a lot to them. Right. It means a lot to them. It means a lot to me too. And I know it's a Ghanaian thing. So you put all of that together, I think we'll be fine.
Thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you, Moro.
Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Jinapor. Someone Jinapor has been my guest on Inside Politics. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.